Well, what's up, everybody? I'm Matthew. This is Jill, of course, and welcome to another episode of Air Check Your Life. Today, we're going to flip the script a little bit, and I'm going to be air checking my life. And this stemmed from our conversation at the Rusty Taco, which we just enjoyed before
We
this
did.
podcast, Jill. And I kind of came to you with something that I've been working on personally, and you said in a minute, this is the podcast today.
Yep.
Why?
Because I think it's something that everybody can relate to, but they rarely talk about.
Mm.
And those are the topics that you and I always want to unearth, my friend.
That's the truth. So let me give everybody a little background. It was about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and I met this woman in Philly. Shout out to Camille, who really is the catalyst for all of this. And she does something called source coding. Now, I'm not going to sit here and explain it because I don't really know that I could. We'll get Camille on another time and she can explain it. But basically, the gist of it is like the code in which we operate. And so, when I talk about sharp communication, I talk about everybody shows up to conversations differently based on what Dr. Elizabeth Fedrick calls relational programming, the hardware that we all come in with. And one of the things that I am working through personally right now is my relationship to money, because I grew up, like, as my mom would say, without a pot to piss in. And, we just heard no a lot. And then my problem, Jill, was that at 25 years old, I achieved every financial dream that I could possibly have imagined. And then I went in to sit in that career for the next 28 years where I had some success and I did well. But now that I've put that career behind and I've stepped into this, what feels like a different kind of career for me, it's funny how the old programming gets unearthed. And it shows its ugly ass face to me once again. So I'm going to volley to you a little bit, and maybe you could share your perspective on lunch and what led you to feel like this is what we have to talk about today.
My perspective on lunch is that the Rusty Taco was really great. Maybe we
Try
can
the
get them as a
dynamite
sponsor.
shrimp, yes.
Regarding what you were just talking about and your relationship with money, I have two things based off of what you just said. Of course, it's rearing its ugly head right now, Matthew, because it never went away. Right? It never went away. It just got moved further and further back in the filing cabinet. But the reality is it was never resolved. The second thing that really stands out to me.
Hold on a second.
Sure.
Pause. So you're right. It was never resolved.
No.
It was covered up.
It was masked. There were too many other things that took precedence.
Well, and I had money again.
Yeah.
Like I had money in my life.
Right.
And so I didn't have to, you're right. I didn't have to deal with the problem.
So I have a question for you regarding that.
Okay.
You say that you had money in your life, but I want to know in here and in your gut, were you ever fearful that you wouldn't have money?
Oh my God. All the time. All the time. Even, and I share this, I've shared this before on other podcasts, even at the height of my career, the biggest contract that I ever signed, you can ask my wife, I would come home sometimes and I would say, babe, like, I don't think it's ever going to be enough.
Wow.
Like it's never going to be enough because, and this is what you experience, anybody who's ever found themselves coming into money, you just buy more shit.
Yeah.
You get bigger houses, you get more expensive cars, you go on bigger trips, you do things where, yeah, you're making more, but you're spending more.
100%.
Unless you have some discipline and a better relationship around money, which is kind of the reason we're here today. And so let me just say before we get too far, my goal with this podcast today is that you find yourself in our stories. Okay, so go ahead. Second part.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. To round that out, what I'm going to say to you is that money scarcity has always been your partner. Okay, so that's one. Number two, when you're explaining to us the scenario of this relationship that you have with money that's uneasy in some way, right? It first stemmed from fear, then it was moved to the back of your filing cabinet, and now it's rearing its head again. What sticks out to me is that you said that you came into money early on in life. So 25 years old, right? So you came from a household where your means were slim. You were told to be fortunate for every single thing that you got. Aren't you lucky that you had always wanted for more because you were watching your peers have more?
Yeah.
And then at 25, Matthew, that's relatively young to break into, not only to break into the field that you had broken into and completely succeeded at by 25. Like, that's really quick to run into your success story, but to have a positive relationship, let me take that back. To have have your bank account run positive at 25 is unrelatable to a lot of people. So you didn't have the time to get used to having money. Of course you didn't build discipline around it because it almost came to you or at you too quickly. So you didn't build up to the Volkswagen, to the Honda, from the Honda, to the Lincoln, from the Lincoln to the Mercedes. You went straight from the Volkswagen to the Mercedes when your brain wasn't even fully developed.
Or in my case, the Hyundai to the Chrysler Sebring.
If it was a convertible. I knew it.
Let's go.
So those two things really stand out to me, right? Your upbringing, the mental mindset that you were taught about money, that's the scarcity mindset. And then you came into money at a really young age when your brain is not yet developed. And I don't think that your story is all that uncommon, meaning the money scarcity part. So I do want people that are listening to us to to stop and pause and go, okay, does any of this sound familiar to me? Like, do I lack discipline with money? Do I fear that there isn't ever going to be enough, even when I know logically I have enough? And
That's the part for me that trips me up a little bit, because
Mm-hmm.
logically, I always tell people when I made money, I saved money. And thank God, because it's been the reason that I've been able to pay bills for the last few years in this transition of mine. But it's interesting, isn't it, how we go? I think if we stopped recording right now, I would go back to this thing that you got me on, which is I never really dealt with the problem. And how many of us in our life have never really dealt with the problem? And what pisses me off, if I can be frank, is that I've dealt with a lot of other problems in my life, right? And it's like, I've cleaned out the kitchen, I've cleaned out the bathroom, I've cleaned out the bedroom, and now somebody's going, yeah, but you didn't clean out the attic. I'm like, shit, I'm like exhausted from cleaning. And I wonder how many people can relate to that statement right now. Like, I've tried to clean so many rooms. Now I have to clean another room. Give me a break.
All right, buddy. So I have some disappointing news for you.
Let's go. I want the bad news first.
There is always going to be cleaning that needs to be done.
Okay.
Most of us don't want to hear that, right? You've just said it. Like, I've done my work. I've cleaned out the things. Maybe I took care of the big things, but all that did was make way for the debris that's been in the back. That's just been sitting there unaddressed, right? So actually, we can spin that and look at that in a positive way. Like, maybe I took care of the big T or the little t. Maybe I took care of my traumas, right? Maybe I feel really settled with those. What a blessing now that there's space for the little things to come up to be cleaned out.
But when I'm sitting over here feeling as I'm talking to you, and it's like, it's interesting that I'm on the chair that you counsel people.
You're sitting in my
right?
couch.
I'm literally on the couch right now in Jill's office. Is that, yeah, but how? Like, what are the tools? And are they the same tools that I use to unearth and deal and get through the big T's and the little T's in my life? Because they don't feel like the same skill set.
And it doesn't have to be, right? And I think that is equally as unnerving for you. Okay, so I'm going to pick on you in particular.
I want you to go hard. Like,
I'm going in. I'm going
to
in.
be soft on me
I think
today.
you know what you know. And I think you want to use that program to fix every single thing, be it big or small. And this is where people stumble, and this is where people give up, because they go, well, I tried, and it's not working. So I guess I just have to live this way. So I guess I just have to live fearing when my next paycheck's going to come in. I guess I just have to feel like it's never going to be enough. I guess this is just who I am. No, you got to change your mode of operation.
Okay, let's slow that down just a little bit. That felt good to get challenged that way. I have said that. I think this is just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe because of the way that I grew up, I'm just always going to have this feeling towards it. And you're right. That is an identity that I'm clinging on to a little bit. And I'm holding on to the story the same way I coach other people to let go of the story. But this is one that I'm holding on to. And this is, I hope this is so relatable to people, because even counselors, right? Even people who are like me and coaches, we don't always do the best job for ourselves.
Oh, goodness, no.
Right?
No.
Like if I throw your ass on this couch right now,
please don't.
We would unearth.
Please
right?
don't. We are just as human as everybody else.
Sure. Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is I'm making a choice to stay stuck in my story.
Right. So let's take this back to what you and I discussed at lunch. The analogy that we used is that your brain is a computer and you have an old operating system running in the background, right? It's just running and running and running. And you have all these other tabs up and you're looking at those tabs and you're paying attention to those tabs and you're searching new things. But there's this warped AOL operating system running in the back that you just won't shut down. But what happens is that's draining your battery. It's draining your mental battery because you are choosing not to look at it because you think that that's easier. But really, the effects of it are more complicated. It may be unseen, but it's definitely felt.
So if you were advising somebody in right now, I'm even thinking like if I was advising, if somebody was sitting across from me having this same story, what would I share with them that could be valuable? Because what's irritating to people like me and probably people like you and the folks who are listening to this right now is, okay, I get it. I know I have a problem. I get it. I'm running AOL.
Correct.
But how do I shut that computer down and, upgrade to the new one?
Let me ask you 2 questions.
All right, let's go.
How old are you?
At this moment, I am 52.
At 52.
But I look 40.
38.
Thank you.
At 52, are you finally willing to lay down the narrative?
Yeah, because it's exhausting.
I feel like you said that too quickly.
Now, because I've thought about this, right?
Okay,
like
good.
I've thought about, it's like all the little programs that, because I did so much big work. My wife and I have talked about this. I did so much big work 5 years ago. And I know I'm smart enough to recognize that there are little programs that I'm still running. And so that's why I came to that answer quickly, because I've given this thought. I am, well, let me just finish my thought. Maybe I'm not, because I keep choosing to hang on to it. Keep going, keep pressing.
I want there to be something different with me asking the question, with me pushing you from the outside, right? Because I know you, friend. I know you well enough to know that you're very introspective, right? And that is one of your beauties. That is one of your gifts. But at times when we're introspective, like that thought process never stops because there's always something to be introspective about. We can tell ourselves that we're going to change a lot of things, but it's until somebody else calls us out and pushes us on it or pushes differently, right? It's not until then that we create some change. So, I asked you how old you were, kind of to kick you in the balls a little bit, to be honest. I won't. You're 6 feet away. You're 52. Matthew, you're 52. You gonna lay it down yet? You've done a lot of work. You know how to lay shit down. So lay this one down.
I'm stuck on the how. I'm stuck on like, what's the first step? And because this story And I'm doing my best to articulate this for people that are listening to us too, because I want to make sure we help them. This isn't a Fix
Absolutely.
Matthew episode.
For sure.
But like this feels different than others. And and if I'm honest, I can't quite even remember what the first step was for some of the other stuff that I did.
Okay, so again, this isn't a Matthew
Yeah, but
story.
acknowledgement, I think, is the first one.
Yes. So for our listeners, right, that we were just modeling in real life. Number one, again, you've done a lot of work. You're very introspective. Not the average human being is not, right? Like you have some practice. There are people that don't. So acknowledgement and acceptance of your behaviors is by far the first step. You can't go anywhere if you don't go there.
Okay.
So you're there. But I want you to really think about and ask yourself, what have you overcome before? What were you able to lay down before, right? And you've said you're not quite sure how you did that. But then the question would be like, okay, well, I could lay down the guilt that I felt regarding my father's death. So why can't I lay down my faulty relationship with money? Both of them stem from my childhood, right? But there needs to be a belief, my friend, that you are capable. So what you've just said to us, myself and the viewer, twice now, is I don't know how to do it. You do. You actually do.
I do know. And I was talking with Camille about this because she was asking me some really good questions too. And to those of you who are listening to this right now, I mean, this is how you get to the other side. This is how you get to the other place, is that you have to sit down with people who are willing to challenge you a little bit and ask you really important questions, and sometimes 2 or 3 times in a row until you get to the real answer of what it is. And I said this to Camille. I said, there's times where the old story plays in my head that I am not enough. And that's such a story that I know so many people deal with. And it feels like I need to understand where that story started. Like, it feels like I have to be able to go back to the chapter, because this is what I did with the big T's and the little T's in my life. I went back to the chapter in the book where the event took place, and I made peace with that child or that younger version of me. And I can't quite place my finger on when that story started that I wasn't enough. You're smiling. What are you thinking?
Can I make a suggestion as to
please.
why you are looking for an event? Because that's easier for our brain to conceptualize. So I love that you just brought that up, because I want everybody to hear this. You're looking for an event to blame, or a comment, or an embarrassment at a restaurant when your parents weren't able to pay the bill, or you weren't allowed to have the meal that you wanted because you couldn't afford it. Whatever the scenario is, you're looking for an event so you can unravel it, take some peace, have some peace with it, and then take control over it. Okay. There are some beliefs in our lives, my friend, that are subtle. It's like a slow burn. It's like a million messages over 10 years that create a belief. And that does make it, I understand now better when you say, but I don't know how to begin, right? That does make it a little more confusing and complicated to start. But again, I'm going to go back to what I said before. The value in the acknowledgement and inviting the monster into the door. So I've mentioned this before in other interviews that we've done, that I use this example of, the boogeyman that's lurking outside of a house. We all know the 1970s, 1980 movies. Yeah. We can all go back to Michael and Friday the 13th, and the babysitter's inside, and he's hiding behind a bush, and she's closing the curtains, and then she's scurrying the kids upstairs, and she's locking the door, and then she's hiding under the bed, or somebody's hiding in a closet. She's running away from the boogeyman, right? And I always look at that boogeyman as the thing that is haunting us in our mind or our mental wellness.
Well, I'm smiling because Camille literally said, "Sit the voice down and say the uncozy thing."
Yes.
Like,
Camille, girl, yes. And I say, open the door. What would happen instead of running in circles, doing these Olympics, going for, a knife or whatever, the pillow, hiding, all of these anxiety provoking, nervous system wrecking things that we do? What if we simply just went to the door and opened it and said, let's just have a conversation? Like, the end result's going to be the same, buddy.
So, okay, we're
Ooh.
at about 20 minutes right now.
Yep. Take me wherever you want to go.
How could we do that right now?
With you?
Yes.
All right. So let's talk. When you think this, I'm going to say money scarcity belief
Yes.
began in your childhood.
For sure.
Okay. So I want you to imagine younger Matthew, whatever age you identify most with, the kid who knew or felt, even if it wasn't true. I need everybody to hear this. It doesn't have to be factual. All that matters is that your brain believed it, truth or not, right?
So can I tell you where I go?
Yep.
Immediately what came to me in that moment was, I can hear my mom's voice and I can hear she's really frustrated and she's upset with my father that there's not enough money. And they're arguing in the kitchen. They're having a spirited conversation, if you will, about this. And then the second thing that I thought about is that going grocery shopping and having to like spend Sunday clipping out all the coupons and then filing the coupons and bringing the coupons to the grocery store and being really frugal in that way. And I here's what I'm starting to think about is the thing that's tripping me up, Jill, is that there's like every story, and this is so good. Thank you, by the way, for doing this. So there's parts of the story that I'm really grateful for. Like, I'm really glad that my mom taught me how to be frugal. I'm really glad that we had to make choices in life.
Yep.
As I say to my wife and my kids all the time, we can't do all the things all the time. Nope. That's reckless.
Right.
There has to be some boundary around it. But that's where I go. Okay. So I go to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, like that part of my childhood.
Great. That's helpful. I also want you to pause. We're going to come back at the end to the part of you that is grateful. Okay. So don't lose that thought. When you are talking about that 5, 6, or 7-year-old boy that overheard his mom and dad having a spirited conversation in the kitchen about money, how did he feel in that moment? Can you take yourself back to his body?
What comes to me is the idea of like, there'll never be enough.
Wow, that's scary. That's big for a kid. There'll never be enough for what? For you? For them? For what? You're 5 or 6.
I don't know. Probably I'll have to spend a little time with that. There'll never be enough. What I want to say is for us to be happy.
That's okay. Don't try to filter to me what you're saying right now, because you're actually using your fully developed, mature brain to answer. That's hard because, again, I know you've done your work, so I know that brain is pretty organized.
What else is coming through is maybe as a kid I started to feel like I can't do enough. I can't be helpful.
Right. Pause. Wow. So in some ways, you ingested a message of I'm not enough. Right? So my safe space, my family at 5 and 6 years old, I want everybody to hear the most important human beings to you will be your parents, regardless if you have one or if you have two. Your whole world will orbit around them. All the brain cares about that at that age is their acceptance of you, their acknowledgement of you, them noticing you, and them feeling calm and happy and content. Because when our parents at 5 and 6 years old feel happy and content, we can be happy and content. Because if they're not, we feel unsafe.
So it's a safety issue.
It's two-pronged.
Okay.
It can be yes and.
Yes, and.
Right? It's I'm scared that they're upset right now. That signals to me that there's something big going on. And if they're unhappy or scared, I feel unsafe. And I can't do anything to help. I'm just a little kid.
God, it's crazy to me because my big T that I had to overcome was that I wasn't useful and I didn't know enough.
Yeah.
That's the,
wow.
And it's amazing how until this moment I didn't realize how deeply wound that story was.
So maybe this is a leap here, but maybe it was so easy for your big T to jump right into that narrative because you'd had that operating system going on in the background from the time you were a little boy, right? There's stuff going on in the house, and no harm or foul by your parents, right?
Oh, I
We're
always
all
say
parents.
This is not a bash
right.
session. It's totally not that.
No, not at all. They maybe didn't know that you were listening. We don't know what we don't know as parents. We're just doing the best we can. I will 100% acknowledge that. But that impacted you individually enough so that you can recall it now at 52 years old, seeing your parents worried and fearful over money, and you having some type of understanding of what that meant and how it symbolized insecurity, right? It put your safe place at risk. That feeling of money scarcity was hurting your parents. The most important people in your world at 5 and 6 years old were fearful about not being able to provide or not being able to take you on a trip, cutting coupons, right? So that operating system had been running in the back for years and years and years and years. And now we've just unearthed it. So there's the event you were looking for, my friend.
I knew we'd get to it.
And we did. And we did. That's where we're going to start. So you need to heal that. And you need to remind yourself again that you no longer are 5 or 6. You're 52. Your brain is fully developed. You have overcome so many things. You know that your brain has told yourself so many lies in the past, and you have learned how to erase those and rewrite them. So that's exactly what we're going to do with this narrative. It's time to lay it down. But can I take you in lieu of time? And I feel like what you and I both just did there is one of the biggest things we've ever done together. And I do feel like I was putting you in the hot seat on my blue couch.
Yeah, which I love, right? You know me well enough to know that, like, get me on the couch.
I know.
Like,
you're so there for it.
Let's go. I'm so here for it.
But I think the acknowledgement, my friend, that not everybody is. For some people, the blue couch is scary. And so to me, these conversations, like these, again, we did not script this. You and I never do. This is very genuine. These genuine conversations, I hope, give other people permission to have first the conversation with themselves and a conversation with somebody else so that they can rewrite their narrative. I do want to take you back to what you said when we identified that moment at 5 or 6 years old. You wove in there, and I also realize now that I'm grateful for that experience. Tell me more about that. What do you mean?
Well, I mean that it shaped me in a way where I don't need to have all of the things, and I'm really okay with just being sort of minimalist, and I don't need the big house. I don't need the fancy car to be happy, because I recognize that those things are external.
Yeah.
They don't really fill any sort of gap meaningfully. And You know, who is it? There's the comedian, maybe it's Jim Carrey, who said, I wish everybody could be a millionaire for a month to realize that it won't make them happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been not millionaire, but I've had enough money
Mm-hmm.
and where I've gotten to a point where it's like, I can have anything I want.
Yep.
And none of it made me happy, not even, you know, maybe temporarily, but it went away. So I'm grateful that I had the experience, probably because I've learned that I have to be grateful that I had the experience. Like, I can't look back on it and beat the moment up. I know that logically because of some of the other work that I've done in my head. Like, eventually, you know, and I talked about at lunch today, in my own life group that I'm leading at my house, I've uttered the phrase several times. Eventually, we all have to be grateful for the thing that hurt us, or wired us in a certain way, because it's critical to overcoming it. So that's the lens in which I look at the money woes that we had as a kid. I'm grateful that it happened. I'm grateful that I was around somebody who taught me boundaries and taught me how to be frugal and taught me how to save. But that narrative runs too thick and too deep, and I would enjoy unraveling that.
I think it's important for people to hear that both can exist at the same time, right? So, and I love that you brought this up, and I love that you discuss this with your life group, because we can experience something uncomfortable and still be grateful for it at the same time. Actually, I believe that true healing is when you realize that you are grateful for it because it's created who you are. There is some goodness out of the responsibility that you learned through your money scarcity. But we've tipped the scales now, right? It's not even anymore. The scarcity is outweighing the thing that you feel grateful for. So we just have to get it back in balance.
Yeah.
Or
tilt it the other way.
Or
right?
tilt it the other direction. Right. 100%.
How do we wrap this up? From your like point of view and your trained brain, you're the one that taught me we have to close people up. Can't just open them up.
You have to close people up.
You have to close them up.
You know, I think I'm going to ask anybody, me included, my friends, as soon as we shut these lights off this afternoon, take a look. What narrative are you allowing to control you that isn't serving you anymore? And don't be afraid to unearth what that's about, because what did we just do that in 20 minutes?
Yeah.
In 20 minutes. And I have a feeling that you're going to walk away and you're going to think about this for days.
It's interesting to me. When I woke up this morning, there was nothing on my calendar after this event. And I was like, what am I going to do? And God was like, hang on, I'll show you.
I've
got some plans for you.
Sit on the blue couch.
Yeah. Go spend some time with Jill.
Don't be afraid of it. Yeah. Right? I think that's how we close this up. Welcome it in. Welcome the boogeyman in. Like, what happens if you just open up that door and said, can we have a conversation? Or are you going to choose to run more circles and burn more energy and give more of yourself away to something that you learned to believe years and years ago? You aren't that person anymore. So why would you allow yourself to have those thoughts?
I love this. And I'm going to tie a bow on this because the work that I'm doing now from the stage, we talk a lot about how to talk to people you don't like talking to and how to manage difficult conversations. And I've said it several times that I know the most difficult conversation almost any of us will have is with ourselves. And, one of the pillars to sharp communication is something Dr. Elizabeth Fedrick calls relational programming. And I say all the time, and it's true, we all show up to conversations based on all the things that came before that conversation. So to use money as the example that we're running today, notice how you're showing up to money conversations. I'm certainly going to be paying attention to it now. Notice how you're showing up to difficult conversations around what? Relationships, sex, any multitude of things. Notice how you're showing up to those conversations. And then once you understand the person who's showing up for the conversation, then it's easier to pick the words. Be articulate, which I define as being so clear there's no choice but to act after the conversation. Make sure you're honest and make sure that you're choosing the right tone, and then make sure you're listening really well. And I think if I were to grade our conversation today, I could give it nothing less than an A+, because we did all of those things. You acknowledged the way that I was showing up to the conversation. Mm-hmm. We used the right words at the right time. Mm-hmm. I'm so clear after this conversation. I know what I need to do. You and I were both really honest with each other and ourselves. We used the right tone to get through this. Notice nobody was screaming. Nobody was getting furious. Mm-mm. It was just really factual. It was really what I call curious. Like, why does this keep showing up? And finally, both of us did a good job of not just listening to each other, but to really listen to the voice in our head. Mm-hmm. For you to ask me the right questions and for me to try to give you the right answers. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting how that framework showed up in this difficult conversation today. So thank you.
You're so welcome, my friend. You know what? It doesn't have to be 6 months or a year of therapy to resolve discomfort. We just did it in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
At least we started the process in a very healthy manner in 20 minutes.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this song up. Thanks, Jill. Appreciate you as always. The book is called Bulletproof, and I'm going to give it a shout out. The final chapter to the book is a lot about what you and I just did together.
Exactly.
And so it's worth everybody checking out. We'll leave a link in the show notes so that you can see it, and we will talk to everybody next week on our podcast. Thanks again for listening.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for that.
How'd it work? You think